Are you actually prepared to stop working, or are you just tired of pretending you have a plan? Most of you watching this are currently committing slow motion financial suicide, and you don't even have the courage to look at the math. Imagine it's 10 years from now. You're 72 years old, standing on your feet for an 8-hour shift at a retail chain because your diversified portfolio evaporated during a market hiccup you didn't see coming. You're exhausted, your joints ache, and the crushing weight of being a burden to your children is the only thing keeping you awake at night. You had the chance to fix this, but you chose comfort over reality. I'm Larry Ellison. I didn't build a multi-billion-dollar empire by hoping for the best. I built it by identifying signals before they became disasters. Most retirement experts are lying to you because they want your management fees. Today, I'm going to show you the 7 cold, hard signals that prove you can actually walk away early, or more importantly, the red flags that mean you're lighting your future on fire. If you want the unvarnished truth about your survival, hit subscribe. You don't have time left to be coddled. Listen closely, because this is where your delusions usually start. You've been told for decades that retirement is a number. Your broker, that guy in a cheap suit who makes money whether you win or lose, told you that if you hit 1 million, or 2 million, or 5 million, you've made it. That is a lie. It's a fairy tale designed to keep you compliant and keeping your assets under their management. The first and most brutal signal that you can actually retire early is not your net worth. It is your net burn rate. I've seen men with $50 million go broke because they didn't understand this. And I've seen people with a fraction of that live like kings. If you are sitting there right now, staring at your accounts and hoping the market does its thing so you can quit, you are essentially playing Russian roulette with your 70s. Let's talk about expense compression. This is the first signal. Most of you are currently hemorrhaging money on things that provide zero utility to your future self. You're maintaining a 4,000 square foot monument to your ego because you're afraid of what the neighbors will think if you downsize. You're driving a car that depreciates faster than your 401k grows. Look at your monthly outflow. If you haven't mastered the ability to scale your lifestyle down without feeling like a victim, you aren't ready. The math is simple, but it's brutal. Every $1,000 you spend per month requires $300,000 in invested capital to sustain for 30 years at a safe withdrawal rate. Stop and do the math. That small $500 monthly lease on a car you don't need, that's $150,000 of your freedom you just lit on fire. Annualize your waste. If you spend $2,000 a month on lifestyle creep, eating out because you're lazy, subscriptions you don't watch, insurance on toys you don't use, that is $24,000 a year. Over 20 years, that's nearly $500,000. You're not just spending money, you're spending the years of your life you have left. You are trading your 60s for a luxury SUV. That is financial suicide. The signal that you can retire early is when your guaranteed non-volatile income covers your compressed expenses. I don't care what the projected returns are. Projects are for architects. I deal in reality. If you can't look at your bank statement and see that your basic survival is covered by assets that don't care if the S&P 500 drops 30% tomorrow, then you are still a slave to the machine. Most of you are in financial denial. You think that because your house has equity, you're rich. You can't eat your kitchen cabinets. Equity is dead money unless it's producing yield or you've sold the asset. If you're 55 and your primary wealth is locked in the 4 walls you sleep in, you're not a retiree, you're a squatter in your own life. The real signal? It's when you stop asking, how much do I need? And start asking, how little can I live on while maintaining my dignity? When those two lines cross, your compressed expenses and your ironclad yield, that is the day you are free. Until then, you're just a guest in someone else's economy. You don't have time left to pretend that it will all work out. The math doesn't have a heart, and it doesn't care about your intentions. It only cares about the burn. If you can't control the burn, The fire will eventually reach you. If you're still clinging to the buy and hold mantra like it's a religious text, you're a fool. That strategy was designed for 25-year-olds with 40 years of labor ahead of them. You don't have 40 years. You have a decade, maybe less, before your physical capacity to earn a paycheck starts to decay. The second signal that you can retire early is a shift from accumulation to velocity. Most of you have been brainwashed by the 60-40 portfolio myth. You think that because your money is spread across mutual funds and bonds, you're diversified. In a real liquidity crisis, everything correlates to zero. When the market panics, your safe index funds will drop 20% in a week. If that happens when you're 62 and trying to pull out $8,000 a month to live, you aren't just taking a withdrawal, you are cannibalizing your future. Selling shares in a down market to pay for your groceries is the definition of lighting cash on fire. It is a mathematical death spiral from which most retirees never recover. The signal that you are ready to exit the rat race is when you stop caring about the market price of your assets and start focusing exclusively on the yield. I didn't build my wealth by waiting for a stock ticker to go up. I built it by owning assets that produce cash flow regardless of whether the market is screaming or crying. This is what I call asset velocity. Is your money moving back into your pocket, or is it just sitting there, trapped in an account, waiting for a good year so you can feel okay about spending it? If your portfolio doesn't generate enough invisible yield, dividends, interest, rental income, or royalties to cover your life, you aren't retired. You're just on a very long, very expensive vacation that you can't afford. Let's look at the signal of passive coverage. Level 1. Your passive income covers your property taxes and insurance. You're still a slave. Level 2. Your passive income covers your food and utilities. You're surviving. Level 3. Your passive income covers your entire compressed lifestyle. This is the signal to quit. If you are at level 3, you can retire tomorrow. If you aren't and you quit anyway, you are committing financial suicide. You are betting your life that the next 20 years will be a bull market. That's not a plan. That's a hallucination. You need to look at your diversified mess and ask, if the stock market closed for 5 years starting tomorrow, would I starve? If the answer is yes, you aren't ready. The wealthy don't withdraw 4%. We live on the spread. We ensure the velocity of our capital is high enough that the machine stays fueled without us ever having to sell the engine. Stop chasing growth. Growth is for kids. You need certainty. You need to transition your assets into vehicles that pay you to exist. When you look at your spreadsheet and realize that your presence at your job is literally costing you more in lifetime than the paycheck is worth in yield power, you've received the signal. But most of you won't do this. You'll keep your money in that target date fund that's currently hemorrhaging value because you're too lazy to learn how money actually moves. You're waiting for a green light from a market that doesn't know you exist. Next stake. Even if your math is perfect, there is a silent killer waiting for you on the first day of retirement. In Part 4, we talk about the psychological signal that determines if you'll actually survive your freedom, or if your early exit will be the start of a rapid decline. Most of you think the biggest risk to your retirement is a market crash. You're wrong. The biggest risk is the person you see in the mirror every morning. The third signal that you are truly ready to retire earlier than expected isn't found in a spreadsheet. It's the identity decoupling signal. If you've spent the last 30 years being the VP of sales, the senior engineer, or the managing director, who are you at 9 a.m. on a Tuesday when the phone stops ringing? If your answer is, I don't know, then retiring early will be the fastest way to find yourself in a deep, dark hole of depression and physical decay. I've seen it happen to some of the brightest minds in Silicon Valley. They exit with $100 million, and within 2 years, They are husks of themselves because they had no post-career utility. Retirement is not a goal. It is a transition of labor. If you don't have a mission to transition to, your brain will begin to atrophy the moment you stop solving problems. This is the identity signal. You are ready to retire when your work has become an interruption to your life's mission, rather than being the mission itself. Are you retiring to something, or are you just running away from a boss you hate? Running away is a coward's strategy, and it doesn't work. The anxiety you feel at your desk today will simply follow you to the beach. Only there, you won't have a paycheck to distract you from it. You'll be sitting on a chair, lighting your mental health on fire, wondering why you feel so empty despite having made it. You need to stress test your identity before you pull the plug. Can you go 3 weeks without checking your LinkedIn? Can you have a conversation without mentioning what you used to do for a living? If your ego is still tied to your title, you are not ready. You will end up consulting, which is just a fancy word for, I'm terrified of being irrelevant. And you'll be right back in the rat race within 12 months, having wasted a year of your dwindling health. The signal is clear. You are ready when you have a defined utility outside of the economic machine. Whether that's building a nonprofit, mastering a complex craft, or mentoring the next generation, you must have a reason to get out of bed that doesn't involve a direct deposit. Without a mission, retirement is just a slow-motion waiting room for the end. If you are currently lying awake at night worrying about money, ask yourself, is it really the math you're afraid of, or are you afraid of the silence that comes after the career ends? If you haven't built a self that exists independently of your employer, you aren't ready to exit. You don't have time to find yourself at 60. You should have done that at 30. If you haven't done it yet, start now or stay at your desk. At least there, the walls have a purpose. Next stake. We've covered the math and the mind. Now we get to the tactical cull. In the final part, I'm going to show you the anchors that are currently dragging you down, the people and the debts you're supporting that are making an early retirement impossible. This is the part where most of you will turn off the video because the truth I'm about to give you is too cold for your comfortable, middle-class sensibilities. The final and most decisive signal that you can retire earlier than expected is the purge signal. You are ready to walk away when you have the stomach to cut the anchors that are currently dragging your financial ship into the abyss. Let's talk about your obligations. If you're 55 or 60 years old and you're still paying a mortgage, you aren't a homeowner. You're a tenant of the bank. If you're still subsidizing the lives of your 28-year-old children, paying their cell phone bills, their car insurance, or helping with their rent, you're committing financial suicide for 2 generations. You are teaching them how to be weak, and you are ensuring that you will eventually run out of capital. You are hemorrhaging money on ghosts of your past. Every dollar you spend on a dependent who is capable of working is a day of freedom you are gifting away. I didn't get where I am by carrying people who refused to row the boat. The signal of retirement readiness is when your household is a streamlined, efficient machine. Look at your balance sheet. If you have bad debt, credit cards, auto loans, or high-interest lines of credit, you are lighting cash on fire. If you enter retirement with debt, you have 0 margin for error. One market correction, one medical emergency, and your early retirement becomes a bankruptcy. That is over $1.5 million you are throwing away to maintain an image. You don't have time to pretend you're richer than you are. The signal that you're ready is when you prioritize your solvency over your status. When you downsize the house, sell the depreciating toys, and tell your able-bodied children that the bank of mom and dad is closed for business, you have signaled that you are serious about your freedom. Early retirement isn't a windfall. It's a series of brutal, calculated decisions. It's the signal of net burn rate control, the signal of asset velocity, the signal of identity decoupling, and finally, the tactical cull. If you can't read these signals, you will remain a prisoner of your own making, working until your body gives out because you were too afraid to look at the math. You have a choice. You can keep lying to yourself, pretending that your current trajectory will somehow lead to a different destination. Or you can accept the reality that you are running out of time. The math doesn't care about your feelings. It doesn't care that you worked hard. It only cares if you have more coming in than going out. You don't have the luxury of someday anymore. You have today. Either you master these signals now, or you prepare to spend your 70s regretting the comfort you chose over the freedom you could have had. The window is closing. What are you going to do about it? If you're ready to stop the bleeding and actually master your financial future, like this video and subscribe. If you're going to keep lighting your cash on fire, feel free to ignore me. I'll be fine. Will you?